Hello, everyone. It's Thursday night. So, you know what that means. We are here to recap our absolutely amazing mastery chat. It was incredible. I cannot wait to talk about it. So, hang out with us for just a second and we'll be right back. Hi, everybody. We are here to talk about Mastery Chat because it was amazing. So awesome. It was the greatest. Jeff is already here. I agree with him. I am here with Susan. She is literally amazing. And she just hosted like the best Mastery Chat. It was just phenomenal. It was all about supporting new teachers, which, although I know it was all about supporting new teachers, but like I feel like you really supported me tonight because I needed to kind of be reminded of all that and have all those answers and read everyone else's. So I'm super thankful to you because I know you meant it for new teachers, but like I really needed it too. So thank you because it was super important. Can you take a second and introduce yourself in case anyone is joining us and maybe they missed the Mastery Chat or, you know, maybe they haven't connected with you prior to this. So tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Susan Jachymiak. I have a Twitter account, which is in my name, Miss Jachymiak. I actually founded New Teacher Journey about a couple years ago, which is a Twitter chat aimed at supporting new teachers. And I have a podcast also called New Teacher Journey, where I have educators talk about their experiences in the field and just give advice. So that's been really rewarding for me to start that off as a new teacher because I get that perspective and get to support other teachers while I'm doing that.
That's literally amazing. Like you are just I feel like you've done so much to support new teachers and it's so important because I mean we'll get into some of the questions you asked, but so many of those are first of all things that support all of us, but also, you know, there's so many things, and not just this year. I know this year's obviously a super weird year, so props to any new teacher that started this year. I don't know how you did it, but you really have just done so much to support new teachers, and I love it because we can never have enough teachers, and you really can never have enough support. So I love all that you do for new teachers. It is phenomenal. And we've got a couple more people joining us. And I agree, what we do for new teachers will often benefit our experienced teachers as well. It's true. I was just telling Susan before we went live that I really thanked her because I said we just got back from spring break, and then, you know, my school had like a couple days of school, and then we had a 5-day weekend for Easter break, and now we're in a really long stretch until Memorial Day. And I was like, I needed this. I needed to be like, yeah, no, this is my why. This is why I love my job. And so, although it was for new teachers, I needed that reminder as well. And I benefited from that so much. Jackie's here. Yes. And I think that that's awesome too. I love that she says giving a voice to new teachers. You do that so well. And it's so important. It really is. We've got Jillian here. And yep, no matter what our experience, we need to support each other. I agree, especially this year, because it's been an interesting one. So how are you feeling? Mastery Chat's done. Like, how do you feel?
It feels good. I love Mastery Chat. I usually chime in, but being obviously like hosting, guest moderating, it's crazy how many people are tweeting. And then, you know, looking at the notifications, I was like, whoa, there's a lot in here. But it was so cool to see all the different responses and how different people support each other. So that was really encouraging for me to see, especially on a Thursday night, that so many people gather on Twitter and, they're all chiming in about the same topic, but I thought it was positive and insightful. So I loved being a part of that.
I love that you said that, because I really couldn't agree with that more. I love Mastery Chat, and it really is. It's so positive, and I feel like every time I'm participating in Mastery Chat, I'm learning so much. So I agree, and I'm sure being on the moderator side of it is a little bit more crazy than being on the participating side of it. I just got to answer those questions and interact. I can't imagine. I was behind during the introductions. I was saying hi to everyone. I was like, oh no, we're on question 2. What's happening? This is going so fast. But I have a lot to go back and look at for tomorrow. So I'm super, super excited. I agree. Amazing discussion. We've got so many people popping in. Love it. Love the chat. So what were you thinking? And, you did mention already that you've done a lot to support new teachers as they're starting. So what were you thinking in creating these questions?
Yeah, so when I was creating the questions, I wanted to be, an encouraging hour of, supporting each other and showing newer teachers that they're not alone, especially during this year where they may feel, isolated and they may feel like they're not getting that support. And we always say that, in teaching, it takes a village, to teach a child, and we need that village. So I think Twitter has provided me with an outlet. So I wanted to make sure that we show newer teachers the importance of, cultivating that positive professional learning network, but also just have that place to encourage others and get support and advice whenever needed. So trying to make questions that are geared towards, lighter questions that did encourage people to participate and not be afraid of answering, but also just to build that connection with others. I thought that was super important.
Yeah, I love that you said the building connections, because I agree with you, it does take a village, and we all need a lot of support. And especially this year, I can't imagine being a new teacher this year, but also like you said, kind of the isolation. I know, we were talking, and I know that you're still virtual until, next week. And then I was virtual for so much of the year, and so many other teachers were. I can't imagine starting virtually and kind of not really having probably all that support right there like you usually would in a normal year. So this year kind of took it a step further of not taking away that support, but making it something we have to put a lot more effort into. So I think your questions were phenomenal in doing that. And again, I love that, yes, they were for new teachers, but I love how much everyone valued from it. I don't think that it was one of those where anyone looked at it and was like, I can't participate because that doesn't relate to me. I think every educator, no matter what level they were at, was able to relate to all of the questions that you were asking, which is awesome. Lots of support going on in tonight's chat. What were you hoping that everyone would take away from, all of your questions and all of the answers?
Yeah, I was hoping that they would walk away feeling refreshed, and that if someone, didn't join Twitter or are new to the profession and are just starting out, they feel like, hey, I have this network now that I can start asking questions. You feel comfortable with people, you build those connections through, responding to tweets, and just having that platform of this is another place that I can get that support, but beyond my school district, beyond my school, beyond my classroom. Now I have a community of educators here to support, encourage, cheer on, and also, ask those questions that we're all sometimes wondering. We have those days where it's hard and we need that encouragement and support. And I think, if newer teachers are on Twitter again, they can find that community of like-minded educators that want to encourage and cheer them on as they go through their journey. So that was my hope, in those questions were to provide that network.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is, Twitter is such a great community of support, or it can be if you I would have been on Twitter, or I don't even know if I knew about Twitter when I started teaching. I probably didn't use it. I wish I would have had all this, because it really is so incredible, and there is so much support, and to have that like to know that everybody goes through those. Everybody has the hard days. Everybody has days where they're like, why do I do this? And so, we all need those reminders. I definitely needed it. And so I loved it. And I really, really wish I had Twitter, because I feel like I would have been a much better educator had I had Twitter and just had a lot more support. And this is so important too, is just Mastery Chat, going back to kind of what you said earlier about it's always so positive and so full of support. It really is just a safe space to share and ask your questions. There's so many people, so many passionate people, so many people that love what they do, so many people that offer support and advice. And I love that about Mastery Chat. That's it. I feel like it's every week it's like that. And I love it. Yes, again, I'm super thankful for my Twitter PLN now. I love it. And I agree, better late than never. But man, it just could have been there when I was a first year teacher. Would have been really great. Now I'm going to flip it. Do you think, hopefully you saw more than I did. I need to go back and catch up on, I think I left off maybe on question 3 or 4. I don't know. I was having so many conversations. It was great. But do you think that people took away all of that support and, maybe hopefully connected with someone that maybe they hadn't been connected with before? Do you think that happened?
I hope so. When I was scrolling through, I did notice a lot of side conversations with others about sharing what they're doing, and just people are like, oh, that's such a cool idea. And then I was like, oh, wait, that's so interesting, and I was trying to also comment and engage in that conversation. I was like, wait, I have a chat to moderate, so I got to go back and forth. But it was really cool to, look at those responses and see, educators share the same subject. There are a lot of math teachers, there are a lot of science teachers, and just seeing that community begin to build even within Mastery Chat, of the different groups of educators and the age groups that they teach, and, seeing that different area of support, that you find someone else who teaches math or teaches middle school or elementary, and just kind of bond in that area too and start those connections.
Yeah, I am going to say, I don't think that you should think that they took it away. I absolutely think they definitely took away exactly what you wanted. I think people took away more. I'll be honest, I had read your topic, but I hadn't seen your questions yet. I was like, oh, okay, this will be a good chat. How do we support new teachers? And I really had that kind of mindset. And then I started reading your questions, and it was like, this really is going to impact everyone. So yes, I'm sure obviously it supported all the new teachers, and hopefully if there were new teachers that joined, they were able to build some connections. But I absolutely, without a doubt, you hit this out of the park, and they took away, everyone who showed up took away more than they thought they would when they showed up. So this was, I know we've said it a lot, this was not just for new teachers. Definitely, we all needed this. So I absolutely loved it. You did phenomenal. I can't wait to go back and read all of it, because I missed so much. I know I did. So now I'm going to throw a couple of your questions at you and see how you're feeling about some of these. So you asked a question, and again, I love this just because of the situation that we're in and the situation that we're still in. And we're in April, whether you've been virtual and are still virtual and maybe are going to be virtual all year, so whether you've been hybrid since the beginning of the year, super a lot of respect to no matter how you've been teaching, because it's not what we're used to. I know, I'm sitting here going, we have no idea what next year is going to look like. So I don't know what to expect. What is a lesson that you've learned during the pandemic that you are going to carry on with you as we continue, whether it's back to more normal or an adjusted, or it's different than what it is probably different than this year, but not quite what we're used to yet?
I think for sure the pandemic has taught us all to slow down a little bit. I'm always wanting to do everything, and I, had to pause and be like, okay, what's really important for me to focus on? And I started my master's in March when the pandemic hit. I was like, oh, I'm going to do my master's. This is a perfect time. And then this year has been an interesting year. So doing my master's while doing that has showed me that we all need grace. And, my professor I have right now is super supportive and encourages us, and just, always reminds us to take time for ourselves as well. So just being mindful of that, but also my students, they're navigating Zoom, they're navigating all the many assignments they have in Google Classroom and just everything. Middle school for the first time in 6th grade, like they came in and they're doing an amazing job. So just seeing them like still keep that positivity despite all this reminds me that, like we got to bring it all for those kids. Like, even though this year has been so crazy, it's really like, thinking of how we act towards our students, like showing them grace, showing them respect, complimenting them on their effort, and that just the fact that they're showing up on Zoom has been huge. And just I'm able to build those connections with them better, I think, on Zoom sometimes, because I'm able to have those one-on-one conversations like with my quieter kids in the chat or in a breakout room. And I feel like in the classroom, sometimes it's hard to reach certain kids, but I've been able to have those, powerful conversations. So there's always something positive out of everything. And I think, of course, this year has been challenging, but it's also taught me a lot about life and about, taking a step back and reevaluating what's important in education.
I don't even know where to start. First of all, I'm going to pause and I'm going to say that you're amazing for starting your master's during the pandemic. That's incredible. I don't know if I could have done that. So that's awesome. Congratulations on that. Hopefully it's going well.
Yeah, it is.
Good. And then I love everything that you said. I think, it's so funny. I think back to the very first day that I ever Zoomed, and I was like, I just remember telling my kids, guys, this is super awkward for me too. I don't normally talk to squares on my computer screen. This is not what we do. I know my biggest fear in August was I just kept thinking to myself, there's no way that I'm going to be able to build the relationships and the connections that I normally would in my classroom. I was like, I can't do that over Zoom. It's just not going to happen. And you're right. This has been challenging. It's been a hard year, but there is so much positive. I do have those relationships. We did build that. We built the classroom culture. My kids, join Zoom, they're showing up, and they're middle schoolers. So there's a lot of other things. Sometimes they might be playing video games above the screen, but you know what? They're showing up, and you got to take the little wins when you can sometimes. But I do. I think it's focus on the important and get back to I love when we threw out our testing and we were really just focused on our kids, what they did and what was important. And I think that has shined. So I agree, it's been challenging, but there has been so much positive. And hopefully those are the things I hope keep going. Brad is joining us. I saw him in the chat. Congratulations, because the chat was awesome. I agree. So if you could give a piece of advice to new teachers, what would you give them? And again, who knows what next year is going to be like? I don't think any of us know what that's going to look like. I don't know that it'll be back to what it was. I don't think it's going to look like what it does now. But what would be your piece of advice?
I would say to take it one day at a time, and that, it's not always going to be perfect, but there's something good in every day. And I had a former professor when I was starting out. She gave me an advice that a lot of new teachers worry so much about being their students, but they should worry more about making a difference. And I think that has stuck in my mind for the past couple of years I've been in education. Am I more worried about being liked by my students, or do I really want to focus on making a difference in their lives and going, above and beyond or out of my way to help them be successful? And then I think, focusing on that aspect makes me more, of a, I'm looking for a solution and I'm trying to work with my students, in a different way, rather than always being focused on their approval. Or in middle school, there's, they have their own personalities. So that's something that I've really focused on, is just really focusing on making a difference and having that servant leadership mindset of okay, I want to make a difference. How can I best support these students and figure out a way to reach them? And that has been super helpful for me starting out, is, figuring out your own teaching style, because everybody's different. So some things may work one year and then they don't work the next year. So being flexible. And I think COVID obviously has taught us that, being flexible on the spot or in a day or in a week, there's so many changes. But I think that's something that's super powerful for newer teachers, is to learn flexibility and be okay if things don't go as planned, because you always have another day to reflect and readjust.
Yeah, I don't even think I could tell you a day where things really go as planned. Like that rarely actually happens. Mm-hmm. But I agree, when you're starting out, you're so focused on everything going the way you plan it to go, and things are going to come up, things are going to change. COVID gave flexibility like a whole new definition, I feel like, this year. But I agree, you just adapt. And I think what you said too, when you focus on supporting your kids, they're going to in turn like you, because you are focused on them and what they need. And so I think that's, those two kind of go hand in hand. You build those relationships by really putting that focus on them. If you're worried about them liking you, that's not gonna get you anywhere. I teach 7th grade. I'm pretty sure they change their mind about me every like 5 minutes, depending on what I say. So you teach middle school too. You never know. Yeah. So I love that. And then I saved this question for last because I think that it was one of my favorites, because it really made me kind of stop and reflect on what I do daily and how I can be better and I can be more supportive. So that was, again, why I love this, was really the reflection that I had to do. How can we support new teachers? Whether we're in a pandemic or not in a pandemic, what can we be doing to support our new teachers more?
I think just giving them a voice. I think so many times like newer teachers go into the field and they don't feel like they're supported, or they may not feel that support right at the beginning because they don't know where they fit in within the school or within the district. So I think having teachers that are there to support and encourage makes such a huge difference. And just being able to even on social media, like being that voice or that, person that they feel comfortable with and that they can talk to about things they're dealing with, is super helpful when you're starting out, because if they can't find someone at their school, they should be able to find a mentor, but sometimes, that doesn't always click, or their personalities don't clash. So having someone even on social media that can be, a voice for them is super helpful. So just, I had to think about that too, because I was like, I do a podcast, do this, but like, what else can I do? Or how can I, using my, I'm a newer teacher, so I try to think about what I went through 3 years ago. I'm still relatively new, and just what did I need then? And trying to build my mindset around helping any newer teachers, whether that's virtual mentoring or talking to them in a direct message or doing whatever I can to help and support. I think when we get busy, we forget, like, oh yeah, there's newer teachers entering the profession. Like, how can we help them as well? Because obviously they're dealing with so much, especially this year. So just finding small thing that you can do, even just asking on Twitter sometimes, like, what do newer teachers need? And sometimes you get responses there that can start up a conversation with someone, and you can work towards finding that solution, or, giving them suggestions.
I agree. I am so guilty of that. Like, just getting busy, and, it's easy to forget. And especially this year, it's so busy. But again, this was a real reflection question for me. And I was like, oh, well, I probably don't do as much of that as like I could. So I think that is key. And, we talked about this at the beginning, and I said, man, I wish I had Twitter when I was first starting. So, if you're a new teacher, newer teacher, I mean, it doesn't matter what year you're in, but I agree, connect with your PLN. That is like, it doesn't have to be somebody in your building, in your district. It can be. I'm sure most districts have like mentor programs when you're first starting, and that's great. But there are so many other people that you can all connect with to support you. And it doesn't have to be somebody who teaches the same grade or the same subject, and make those connections. Because truly, like tonight, this is where, I learned so much, and I feel like I get the most support is somewhere, like you said, that somebody who you can talk to, and like find somebody that is a safe space for you that you can have those conversations with, because they don't always have to be positive. And, sometimes you have a rough day and you need to tell somebody about it, and that's okay. It's then about finding the positivity and, figuring out how you can make tomorrow better. Mm-hmm. You're going to have those days. Yes. Keep that new learner mode attitude. I love that. And yeah, you say newer teacher, and you're killing it. So I agree. Sometimes learning from new teachers, like I have learned so many ideas and I'm like, oh, that's a really great idea. I never would have thought of that. So, and we're always looking for new ideas because like you said, sometimes what you do one year is not going to work the next year. It depends on your kids. It depends on what you're doing. So you always got to look for that support. So I loved your chat. I cannot wait to go back and read it through more of it because again, I got caught up in some side conversations and pretty sure I only made it to like question 3. So I need to go back and read the rest of them because I love that about Mastery Chat. I like that I can go back. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you guest moderating. It was such a phenomenal chat for literally every single educator, no matter where they're at in education, how long they've been in education. Maybe they're still in school to be in education. It's been phenomenal. And thank you for going live with me and talking about this because I love chatting and I love chatting about that chat. And I agree with Megan. If you don't keep learning, you don't go anywhere. I agree. You have been absolutely phenomenal. Any last words? So give me like one last word to all of our new teachers out there as we have like 2 months left of this year, this crazy year that it's been.
I would just say going, obviously take it one day at a time, but reflect on where you've been and how far you've come since August, because I know that, when you're starting out, you're so nervous about how it's going to go, and this year has thrown so many curveballs at us that I think, taking time to pause and reflect and then move forward is important, but also, recognizing that you've made it this far. So you're doing a great job and just keep going and don't give up. But, it's always important to reflect, like Teach Better always, says to reflect and to be better than you were yesterday. And just thinking of those things, like how can we get better at what we do, but it doesn't have to happen overnight. Like it takes time. So just celebrating your progress, but then thinking of ways to revamp little things for next year, when you have time, or in the summer when you have more time to really focus on that is super important.
I love that. And with that is our Mastery Chat recap. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to everyone that joined us in the comments. And we will be back here next Thursday for another Mastery Chat. Bye, everybody.